is the final battle. They're going after Trump, and if they can get Trump, it means they can get you, they can get me, they can get all of us. He is standing in the way, and that can sound like a campaign slogan, but it's very true. Now we're approaching the most important battle of our lives. Now, for the very first time in American history, a sitting president's DOJ has indicted his top political rival ahead of a presidential campaign. When they indicted me for nothing, I said, now the gloves are off. Now we have to say if I can see the crook. Now we're approaching the most important battle of our lives. If you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Well, you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. I've seen your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Well, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes, so you could wipe off that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies.
If you have a problem with someone, you have to go after them. And it's not necessarily to teach that person a lesson. It's to teach all of the people that are watching a lesson.
The last time we ever met, but I know the reason why you keep your silence.
When we get back in the White House, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
The hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. So strangers to you and me.
Power. I don't really want to have peace with these people who did this to us and are continuing to do this to us. We have to turn the tables on them, give them a dose of their own medicine, and then we can even the playing field, and then we can discuss unity.
Patriot Underground. Did you know that stem cells are like tiny repair crews inside of your body? I wasn't even aware of this until recently, and I watched this episode of Joe Rogan where he was talking about it from his own personal experience. Check this out.
Full-length rotator cuff tear, and the UFC gave me a doctor in Los Angeles, and he looks at my MRI and goes, "You're going to need surgery." I go, 100%? He goes, "I don't know how you're using it now. It's a matter of time. You're going to need surgery, so it might be better to do it now." So I got it shot up with stem cells, and this was the early days of stem cells in America where you could get away with more. You got to go to Mexico now again. Tijuana, the Cellular Performance Institute.
So like he was saying, folks, most stem cell therapies are illegal here because they actually work, and hence they are blocked by the FDA. And a placenta stem cell injection is probably going to run you north of $50,000. But here's the good news. High flavanol cocos stimulate your own stem cells to come out of the bone marrow. And Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee backs this up. Check out what he says in this video.
So studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. If it's in your heart, they'll fix it. If it's in your liver, they'll fix it. If it's your skin, they'll fix it.
That is dark chocolate's secret. But flavanols are usually destroyed when the chocolate is made, which is why Black Forest made this amazing product. The first high flavanol cocoa powder on the market, only 20 calories, no sugar, and it is stem cell fuel. Over 100% increase in stem cell circulation. And here's where it gets really exciting, folks. They had a deal that ended at the end of July that they are bringing back for 48 hours exclusively for my audience. And the only way to get it is to use the link in the description. Check out this amazing deal. For 48 hours only, store-wide, you can buy 2 and get 1 free, including the cocoa powder that you see on your screen. And in addition to that, you get an additional free bottle of this high flavanol cocoa powder. This is an absolute no-brainer, folks. Half of your order is free. But again, for a limited time, only 48 hours, only using the link in the description of the video. And once it's gone, it's gone. So please do yourself a favor and take advantage of this incredible deal from Black Forest exclusively for Patriot Underground's audience. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Patriot Underground. Today is August 17th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, to discover the truth beneath the surface. As always, I really do appreciate everybody out there taking the time to listen. And as you can see today, I have the pleasure of welcoming a brand new guest, someone with a very well-informed perspective on all the topics that we typically discuss on this show. And I am very excited that she took the time to be with us today. For those of you who don't know her, Sheila Holm is the author of several different books. I think the number is actually 19 based upon the conversation we were having before we sat down today to record the show for all of you. Her newest book is entitled An Eternal Plan Always Trumps a Human Plan, How to Counter the 45 Points Used to Destroy America. And as you folks are going to see, she is extremely well-versed in history, in the Bible, and the Q operation. So I'm sure that this is going to be a fascinating discussion. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to sit down with you and chat today. Sheila, welcome to the show.
It is exciting to be with you because I've noticed everything that you're doing too. Everyone goes, when are you going to be on with Patriot Underground? I said, I don't know. I never invite myself. I never ask people, can I come on your show? I leave it up to the Father. And this is an honor. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor for me as well. And I have to say, I got to give credit to my good friend, Mark, formerly of News Treason, of course, who actually connected Sheila and I. He had given me your information. I think it was a few months back, and I kind of got distracted with some other things, but it always stuck in the back of my mind because I remember seeing you. I know you've been on the scene for a really long time, much longer than me. I think 35 years you've been in the truth movement in some way, shape, or form. But for me, it was about a year ago or so when I first saw an interview. I was just kind of poking around on Before It's News. I saw a discussion that you had, I believe it was with Michael Jaco, and I was like, wow, she's really interesting. I'd love to have her as a guest. And it took a little time for us to get here, but we're here now, and we're going to have a great discussion. So like I was saying backstage, I always like to give my new guests an opportunity to talk a little bit about their background. I'm sure that there's probably most of my audience is familiar with you, but for folks who aren't, and even for those who are, it's always nice to have a little bit of information about your background, what inspired you to get involved in the truth movement, maybe what were some of your initial red pill moments, what were some of the most important or interesting aspects of your journey up until this point, just to kind of give us a little bit of perspective on where you're coming from.
Well, grew up in Nebraska, on the farm, didn't even, everything was so different at that time in America. And then ended up going out to California, doing my degrees out there. And so I was in California for a long time before God sent me to Georgia. And what I experienced, I was always the first and the only woman on executive staff of the corporations I worked for. And then they started abusing the information in the medical legal cases that I helped a doctor with. Took him out. He was tens of thousands of dollars in the red the month I met him. And the next month, because he hired me that same day, I didn't know he was going to hire me. And we went to a lunch with some attorneys, and I was already on the payroll. I didn't know. And so the next month, he was tens of thousands of dollars in the black above where he was in the red the month before. And he was like, what's going on? And so then I was excited about that because I wanted to turn around work comp because I'd been a human resources director before that. And people have to work under the get money under the table to put food on the table. And so it's just they got to drag it out until the attorney gets paid. So I had this whole process cleaned up, and I was going gangbusters, and then went through a hostile takeover. So it took me from the hostile takeover to putting 3 superior court judges, including the presiding and the top trial attorney in San Diego, in federal prison on RICO racketeering charges. They were making decisions before the cases came to court. I wasn't the only business they destroyed, but because they did it to me, I wasn't as my family said, if you got a problem out there, Sheila, you need to get to the bottom of it and take care of it. So I took care of it. And ever since, the FBI's had me on their, we got to destroy her list. And so I've been dealing with that. And that's, but the gift of all of this, people kept saying, I'm so sorry God allowed all that horrible stuff to happen. I said, guys, he never let go. He has never let go of my hand. He's never quit bringing me through stuff. He's always, he warns me in the moment. He doesn't tell me in advance how bad it's going to get. But when I'm going through the really, really bad, he's warning me in the moment how to get through it. And so that's how I can connect dots now. So it's not, none of this can I take credit for, because even your intro is like one of the best, if not the best intro I've ever seen, because that Phil Collins song is one of the best songs. And that's what Dan Scambino is coming out with all the time. And so that you have that, but you also have the cars that I used to be able to drive with, because I did high-speed rally driving California mountain routes on the 2 full moons, June and December. So we would go to Palm Springs on one and go to Vegas on the other. And you had to average 55 miles an hour going through the mountain towns, and the highway patrol would close the towns. And all those other cars were that fancy. I had a little Z car, a little Nissan Z car, but you can't change your engine or anything anyway. So I never won the whole thing, like got the big award. But a lot of the guys didn't get all the check stops, and so they didn't, but I always made the check stops. I always made it in time, and so I always got some kind of an award for it. But but those cars that you have in here, those are the kind of cars that I had. Jensen Healey's, Aston Martins, I mean the Panteras, which you aren't supposed to be able to even drive in California, but they're outlawed in California. But there are guys that have beautiful Pantera cars. It just was, your intro is so profound, and so it kind of draws me back to all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually something that I didn't create that intro. That was actually the Dilly team that put that together. You could see, like, at the very end, there's like a little credit caption. But once I saw it, I was like, that is amazing. And I started using it, and more people were saying the exact thing that you are, like, oh my God, that intro is absolutely fire. I love it. So I just kind of kept it. And I feel like it gets everybody sort of hyped up for the show, and it's a reminder of the overall journey that we're going through right now. Like, we can all feel something big coming, and it's like that sense of anticipation, and it's just a great way to build up the energy for the show.
Where is the Dilly team? Because I was acknowledging them constantly. Talk about a meme team. When we were told, okay, guys, it's meme time, they went nutso, and they were being re-queued with the Q post. The Dilly team was known famously for all of this.
I don't know.
Connected with them? No,
I'm not. No, I actually, I just stumbled across that video one day. I to be honest with you, I don't even remember where I found it, but I just decided that I was going to throw it in there one day just to do an intro, and everybody loved it. And so, but that's not my thing. I don't really do like memes and videos like that, but I certainly can appreciate. And that's one of the things that I love about this movement, is that so many people with varying different talents, it's like we pool everything together, and we can create this amazing content and be able to use it in different contexts as well. So I just wanted to make that clear, that I didn't actually create that. I wish I did. I wish I could take credit for it, but unfortunately, that's not something that it's not an arrow in my quiver, but I do enjoy that. that intro, and I know the audience does as well.
Well, by 2008 in California, by going through all of that stuff, because it was 1998 when I got most of it done with them. And then it took me another, so that was 7 years that I took on the judges with the FBI, being heavily involved. And then they left me out of the case. It took me another 5 years after they sentenced the judges to get the economic fraud DA that was helping me before it was a federal case. I had to go through him, and he worked with the FBI. I had to get him sentenced on felony fraud. And so that took another 5 years. So that was 12 years of my life doing that. Wow. And so when I got done with all of that, then that's when it happened to do my business books, my script on myself. And I won a film festival in San Diego. And because of my business books, I was brought on as an instructor with Buckminster Fuller. He did an entrepreneurial training course, and they pay for it in Europe and they pay for it in Asia, but they don't pay for it in America. And it is just profound. And so I taught that in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And then I had a week in between. I was in Shanghai making some meetings happen in Shanghai with some financial people, and then found out they're all corrupt and wanting to do mining of iron ore. And they wanted the most iron ore, the most gold, everything that was mined every day. They were buying it from China. And so then I had to change my email address when I came home, because when I realized what they were doing and how they were doing it, it was like, I can't do this. And then taught the course in Shenzhen, China, before I left China. But I never saw anything in China. Everybody goes, did you go to Beijing? Did you go? No, I saw the waterway from the Pudong in the finance district in Shanghai, because I was sitting in their conference rooms all the time. And that's what I saw. And the number of ships coming in and out was unbelievable. And so that's what I recognized. And when all of that was happening, again, every one of the pieces that I was involved in have set me up to be able to understand things today I never would have understood, and to have been places and seen things and heard things and realized what they were doing when they're buying up all the mining every single day. And so now what's happening, I mean, I only went through Seoul, Korea for a moment. They took all of our water, even though you're in the airport and you go from one side of the airport to the other side of the airport to continue on. They took all of our water bottles. And so I didn't buy them. I mean, I didn't even buy them separate. And we didn't go anywhere, and I didn't put it, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing in Seoul, Korea. And now look what's happening in Seoul, Korea. And what are the chances that China has been destroying our elections the same 35 years? 35 years ago, I was stuck in the islands, and the pirates had to help me because I couldn't get home because of Desert Storm. That was in 91. And so since that time, the urgency, intensity of the Father on my life and what he has shown me and what I needed to show the people has just been going gangbusters. I came home to an empty house. I came home to empty accounts, and they hadn't even filed a case against my corporation. And that's why people go, what do you call it? And I said, a hostile takeover. They started saying they were the president of my corporation and took over everything, and how they were everything they did to me was illegal. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did or reveal what I revealed, because they didn't follow the law. But they're not following the law to this day. And if you aren't strong enough to come up against it, and that's what I did. Every day I was at the law library. Every day I was working on everything. And then they started filing cases in all 4 courts in San Diego County where I was at. And so I'm going against all these cases, and I was exhausted. And I said, Father, I can't keep going against all these new cases. They just keep trying to destroy me. And just quietly, God said, counterclaim. So if anyone's out there fighting a case, that's why they file all these cases against us, because who pays the money? You pay the money to defend it. They don't care. And they know they're lying. So when you file a counterclaim and claim damages to you because they're lies, all
that
of a
gets
sudden,
back off a little bit.
Yeah, everything got dismissed. In fact, Trennis Evans, who's helping a lot, has helped a lot of the J6ers and everything. He actually was with me on platform a few times. And the last time we were together was at the Villages in Florida. And he actually acknowledged, he said, I didn't know Americans could fight their own cases. I didn't know Americans could file their own responses to the court. But we have a right, because they're coming against me individually. So I have a right to represent myself. I can't represent you. I can't represent the county. I can't represent anything else because that's the British bar says that you have to have a license in order to represent anything else. And
But
so
you can't represent yourself.
you
And
can
that's one of the
represent
things-
yourself.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they don't count on is that they go on the offense with all of this lawfare, and they think, oh my gosh, I mean that, and I would feel the same way if I was being put on the defensive with all of that, never really thinking in terms of how I could actually fight back. And that's that's actually a really important point that you made. And so you have at this point, I mean, you and I were talking, and I think you just mentioned it in the context of what you were saying there, that you've been very much targeted by the FBI. And that is still ongoing to this day, correct?
Yeah. And have you seen, I did not know when I was invited after all of this, they erased me from the system in 2012. And then in 2016, I was invited by the federal grand jury to file my own case because from 2012 to 2016, the FBI repeatedly refused to give the case even over to the U.S. attorney. And they're in the same, under the AG, they're in the same area, and they're compelled by law that when the U.S. attorney asks for somebody's FBI file, you have to release it. They refused. I went in to see them and they said they would mail it on Tuesday. I said, why? And he said, because Columbus Day is Monday. So I was in on a Friday, and so they would mail it Tuesday. I said, you're a few blocks from each other and you're going to mail a sensitive FBI file? This doesn't make any sense. Well, they never mailed it. I mean, they never followed through. So then the national office compelled them to send it. They didn't. So then when I was invited by the federal grand jury, you're supposed to get your FOIA back from FBI with your file.
Sheila, let me just stop you really
Yeah.
quick. So just to clarify, what case are we talking about? Because I know you've had a lot of stuff going on. What case are you talking?
The federal grand jury invited me in because when we did the federal grand jury case against the judges and the attorneys, the FBI left me out. And so that's why I'm still dealing with all this.
And this is back in what year was this?
It started with them in 92. My corporation trial was in 92, and they've been after me ever since. And in 91, I came home to an empty house with no accounts because of all of the illegal stuff. And so I proved it all, and the FBI had it all. And my documented evidence helped win that case. And they all got the awards and rewards and bonuses and everything else. And my name was left out. So that's why the U.S. attorney said I wanted the file. So then when I filed for the file, I was invited by a civilian. Again, no one in America has ever put a judge in jail overnight. And I was able to get 3 plus a top trial attorney awarded by the county the year before in prison on federal RICO racketeering charges. And so then I ended up being invited by the grand jury because civilians can't file to grand jury. It's FBI that investigates, submits the documentation. Then they turn it over to the U.S. attorney with the indictment from the to get the grand jury indictment, and they turn it over, and that's where they go forward. And that's what happened, but I was left out. And the U.S. attorney couldn't get anything from the FBI. So when the federal grand jury when it was revealed to them that I was also illegally removed as an American from every system in America, you couldn't find my name. They've done it twice. They did it in 2012. And when I met with them, then they just had one question. We just want to know, how are you coming through all this and not committing suicide? Because that's what everybody else that they do this to seems to do, is commit suicide, because you have no way to survive. You have no way to have accounts. You have no way. And every social security number had to start over. They said you can't let anything merge with a prior number or we aren't going to be able to help you because we have to keep the record clear. The record was never clear the whole time. They made me look like an identity thief by having a different social security number every few months.
So you have a long history then. This goes all the way back into the early 90s. And it's still to this. Now, I guess this is kind of my question. I'm very curious. So Trump came along, of course, in 2016, took over. Presumably, he's in his, we believe he's in his third term now. I don't know what your perspective on that is, but a lot of folks believe that
he declared it when they came to Quantico. Right? He declared it. I've been your president 45, 46, and now 47, because they thought they could get away with it. See, this is so brilliant. This plan is so brilliant. They thought they could get away with all these crimes in the 22 campaign and in the 24 campaign because he's not here. So we can do all this stuff. See what I mean? And they all fell for it. Now, since the Trump era began, what is your how have you continued to be targeted by the FBI? Has this continued on?
or have you noticed that things have taken a turn for the better?
They have continued.
They have continued. Okay.
So the case, I was invited in 2016. They have 6 months, 12 at the outside to get the file to me when I send in a FOIA. I got it in 14 months. So I got it in March of 2017. And so president was already in by 2017. And so I prepared it for, I revised everything, gave them the FOIA. The FOIA response was a complete joke. I was communicating every day to the Senate Banking and Finance Committee on the identity theft cases. And the FBI was upset and said, you have to send us the same one you're sending them. So I paid to fax it to them and fax it to DC. And because I lived in North County at the time. And so I'm faxing it down into San Diego and I'm faxing it out to DC. And not one of those documents is in the file. The file is a complete joke. And so I completed it and I said, what am I going to title this case? And he said, targeted individual. And so that's what I did. And what it is that they keep destroying you until you have no means of financial support and you can no longer survive. And so that was 2017. Mm-hmm. And when the president got it, he put a White House case number on it. He gave it over to Horowitz and we were going gangbusters. He even moved his office across the street from the FBI because, are you ready for this? They wouldn't even communicate with him. And he said, I want you communicating with her and I want you following up. And here's a copy of the case that she filed that the president put a White House case number on. And so he had confirmed all of this with me. We were working diligently. And then by 2019, he said, I've had it. They're not communicating with you. They're not communicating with me. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to priority mail with tracking your entire file over to the FBI office for them to get back to you. Because I told them to follow up with you and they have not. So I sent it in October of 2019, November of 2019, and it goes right into their office. In November of 2019, they marked it all up with black markers, put white labels over it, put a big RTS, return to sender up in the corner, went to the post office and dropped it off and sent it back. And so when I contacted Horowitz about that, he said, call them and find out why. And they're now saying what the U.S. attorney always says, we don't deal with people off the street. We don't do those kind of cases. And so that's what they told me. And so he said, would you put a letter to me doing that? And he said, do you really have all the tracking that it went to them and that they dropped it off at the post office? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, send that. Also send me multiple pictures of the front and back of that priority envelope. I want it all. So then that's by 2019. And then we went into COVID. And so I never heard from him. They never answered the phone again. And what people didn't understand is the FBI was closed down and boarded up. And his office was empty. Nobody was answering phones. Nobody, if you leave a message, you don't get a response. Everything was dead. And I found out later the IRS office was closed. Lots of them were closed. But then what did they do? They removed me again. I was erased from the system again in 24 and couldn't renew a driver's license in America. So they had to
basically a long history of retribution against you for how would you, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to understand, and just so my audience is clear about this, why are they targeting you? Like what is this long history of retribution ultimately being driven by? Is it just you trying to hold them accountable for various different crimes? How can we best sort of streamline that so the audience understands like why you're being victimized?
Well, they didn't care what happened to me. See, I was a witness to all of this stuff. And I'm looking for a targeted individual because I didn't know there's now a chart. I didn't know about this till 2024. You know what we might want to do? There's a 5-minute, 55-second video at the top of my website homepage, and that is hisbest.org. And the same guy that did all the videos for President Trump's campaign, he did all the stuff for Flynn with the Flynn film, and he did the docufilm. He was filming everything during when the film of Flynn went around the country. And his name is Matt Struck. And he's been re-queued a few times. He's been reposted by the president a few times. And he did a video for me. He read the new 500-page book in 2 days and then called me and said, I thought I knew you, but whoa, I didn't. And he said, I want to do this for you. And in 7 days, he had this done.
Okay, so this is the video right here, right? Is this the one?
I'm looking for the targeted individual. That's the video. So if we want to play that video, that is 5 minutes, 55 seconds. And that will tell you from age 4 what God's been having me do and how I got where I am.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. So that way it'll provide a nice broad context for folks. So they won't get, there's just so much information. I don't want folks to be confused about what exactly has happened to you in your background. And then we'll continue from there. So let's go ahead and put that up.
I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. The details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion.
Okay, I was muted there. Wow, that was amazing. Who put that together for you?
Matt Struck.
Matt Struck. Okay, that's okay. All right. So I'm trying to get the whole story here because I've heard you talk on multiple different interviews, but I've never really gotten the full context. So I think that video is fantastic. So where we were leaving off, I guess, was you were talking about COVID came. So Trump sent the case over to Horowitz, then COVID, and then what happened after that? And kind of leading us up to, I guess, where we're at present day.
Nothing, but then at the rallies, at least 4 or 5 rallies in both sets of the campaigns, the president made it real clear. He said, those of you who have been destroyed by that 3-letter agency and their agents and their agency, you're going to receive full restitution. So the military thought it would be in 18 to 24 months, but it could start happening next year. But I'm not the only one. But I'm the only one who ever put judges in prison. So I really appreciate them understanding the depth of the evil that I've been dealing with. And then I was targeted at Lynn Woods. This was in July. I was on the 17th of July, 21, when the targeting started and nobody really knew what was happening. And because I'm still living, I was able to find a patent. But the other 5 speakers all went to the hospital, and they were all on the 12th day you can't breathe. You got no oxygen, and so they all went to the hospital. I stayed at the house with the father, and I'm still living. And now I have found out how they killed them. They all died within a month, and all my truth-speaking friends. All in the. Everything. Russ Dizdar was phenomenal. The 7 layers of Luciferianism. That guy was phenomenal. And prophets were dying. Everybody was being targeted by speaking on platform. And so I'm so glad I got through it, found the patent. And so now I'm helping with that. And I'm speaking at Halt Hospital Homicide. We have the documentation now, 4 poisons. One of them was fentanyl. Remdesivir. Remdesivir is an automatic killer. But believing people, and this is how amazing the Father is, they gave him no water, no food. They kept pumping him with all these poisons. Some days each one of them was more than would kill a horse. And the believers were still living with no water, and getting all these poisons put into their system. It's unbelievable what they did to people. I'm just so grateful. But if I hadn't been in the medical legal industry and seen all the fraud, I have gone to the hospital just like them. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything I've learned has been for a major, major purpose. And Matt Struck was putting out, I don't know if you saw on Q reposted it several times. It's the scripture, 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name. And it's the same scripture that the president appreciated in the first book, which is why he ordered a second copy, because he loaned his out. And then he gave the Native Americans in Macon, Georgia, the 2,300 acres that were stolen back many, many, many decades ago. Do you see what I mean? He's been cleaning things up that have been just miraculous. And so I just feel really fortunate that I've learned all of these things and learned how the DA's office worked and the credit bureau and the finance and the banking and I was going to be an ABC entertainment reporter because I started doing all sorts of things with the arts in San Diego, created so that business people could go so I could get my life back, and having no idea. And the day that was supposed to happen, I was signing the 5-year contract, went out and spent my last money on getting hair done, makeup done, buying a new suit, going on for that picture, for my contract. And I get a message right before I'm supposed to be there. And they said, oh, well, it's not going to happen today because we're getting a new news director. And so you're going to have to start over. And so, but see, if Father hadn't pulled me out of the media, would I have been you see what I mean? Every single thing that happened was for my protection. He knew
had his hand on you. Yeah.
The whole time.
Incredible.
The whole time. And that's why I keep saying he's the only one that knows the end from the beginning. I can't, and people keep going, this wisdom of Sheila. It's not my wisdom. It's not. He's showing me, you got to tell my people this, you got to tell them this. And the way I met Matt is that, he put out that 2 Chronicles 7:14 scripture that they colored the flag on. Remember the blue? It was on a Q post, and then they reposted it a few times. Mm-hmm. And that was in my book. And so when he was at a Doug Billings event, June of 23, that's when we actually met in person. But I didn't know until he offered to do this May of last year when the new book came out. I didn't know. He said, I've been wanting to do an intro video of you for years. I'm like, really? Because you don't know. You don't know who's out there thinking of you. You didn't know a bunch of people were saying, why aren't you on Patriot Underground, Sheila? What's wrong? You need to be on Patriot Underground. It's like, I don't know, because I don't invite myself anywhere. It's
definitely the Lord is lead guiding and directing all of us in our own ways. Mm-hmm. And we're coming together and making these connections. Even to this day, it's absolutely fascinating. Now, you were telling me backstage a little bit. I know you have a strong relationship with 107. And there seems to be a pipeline where you're able to get this information directly to the president. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and then I overnight books with copies of it just to be sure he gets it. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a strategy group, and I'm not going to say where they are, but some of them, if I said the names, you would know the names. It's like a handful of guys. Now mm-hmm. there are the 200 generals that brought him in because the good military, and the Q's been going on since Lincoln, and there is the Book of Q, and that Book of Q is supposed to be the words of Christ.
Yep.
And so I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I have all 4 that are out there, but this is the one that everybody really depends upon and uses. But because Lincoln fought so hard with he knew the Father, he knew the Bible better than I do because I'm not a Bible scholar. He knew it. And all this was set up back then because they realized how bad it was at the time of the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And it's too much to go into that, but the book series that you saw on the video, that book series led to all of this. Mm-hmm. And this is how much God's had me on this path. In 1993, when I was going through all this hell, I met a guy to do my hair. And he said, if you'll help me with my website, I'll do your hair into the box. I didn't know into the box meant into the coffin. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Funny guy. And this woman from Texas, she said, and she was like 25, 30 years older than me, but she said, you sound like you're so much fun. And I said, it's because I'm going through hell. And when you're going through hell, you got to keep laughing and you got to keep walking. And so she said, I want to take you to lunch. And she said, I just got to check with you because my maiden name's Mudd. Is that okay with you? And I'm like, doesn't matter to me. My dad just said, don't let your name be called Mudd. Having no idea that that's the Dr. Mudd that set the leg of John Wilkes Booth and found out about their secret society and knew they were in a conspiracy. But because he couldn't name it, she tells me all of this. He ends up going to the Gulf of Mexico prison. It's now Gulf of America because that's the true title. It should have been, just like the Panama Canal is now the United States of America Canal. I proved all of that in the new book. And so what happened is she's telling me this whole story. I wouldn't have known this because she's telling me this back in 1993, my first time with this hairstylist in San Diego. And then fast forward to 2017, she passes away. 2019, I find out the name of the secret society is Knights of Pythias. And I mean, what are the chances? He ends up in the Gulf of Mexico prison where the guys are dying of yellow fever, malaria. He creates a malaria drug, of which is what? All the roots to the HCQ that was saving people through COVID. Do you see the timing of this and the finding of this? My life is crazy. And there are people who think it is crazy, but it all has meaning to get us to where we are. Like back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right in there, I was fighting really hard because I knew that this country was off track. And there's a guy in America that's now back out of prison doing it again, and they were restoring the republic. And that's why I found out what we were doing was that's sedition. If you're trying to create a government in parallel when there's a government structure in place, and we have to peel off the corporation to have the republic that we were founded upon, because our Constitution is a republic of, by, and for we the people. So we have to come back to that, which I know we're going to get into today with the surprise of looking at school choice, because it's us that those executive orders sit in DC. And if they're not enacted in the states, nothing happens.
Right.
And so he's codifying everything so that they can't come in and change it. Let's say that he's not our president in 2 years or 5 years or 20 years or whatever. I don't know how long this is going to go on, and could be done potentially going on that long. But if we look at it, we think when we hear about those exciting executive orders that are clearing everything up, if we don't enact them in the states and we don't do something about them, we're not going to be able to retain this. And that's why I kept telling people, you got to get truth in you. That was the eclipses when you saw where the Lord signed his name. Aleph means truth and life. And the truth is, that's why it says conform your heart and mind to Christ, is because if you don't have truth in your mind, you have a reprobate mind. And people go, oh, okay. But that's not the whole definition. The rest of it is, if you have a reprobate mind and truth is not in it, which means that the truth is not in you, you have no ability to discern evil. That's where we are. So you think all these people can understand what you're saying. They can't understand because they don't have any truth in them, because they believed all the lies. That's why they gave us all lies. That's why our history's all been lies. And that's why people say, what's the biggest thing you've done for our country? And I said, correct history.
Now let
me correct it.
All right. So let me ask you a couple questions here. I'm very curious. So here we are. It's hard to believe. August 17th of all days, we're sitting down in 2026. You've had this long history of persecution by the FBI. And I have, I guess, a series of questions along those lines, because it seems quite obvious to me that from your perspective, Trump is still very much fighting the swamp. We sort of discussed this a little bit backstage. And I talked about my sort of evolving position that I've kind of progressed from the camp of the white hats and the Q military is in full control to a much more of a nuanced position that this is still very much an ongoing battle where Trump is fighting the swamp. So let's first just talk about the FBI under Kash Patel. Since Trump came back in January of 2025, have you noticed any discernible difference in terms of the relationship that you're having with the FBI now that Trump is back in office optically and that Kash Patel is in there? What's your perspective on that?
Well, Kash Patel isn't involved with what happened to me because he's cleaned it up.
Okay.
I can tell you a really good story do you remember when the 3 guys came in from the FBI and said they were suspended without pay because they were only going to follow the Constitution? They weren't going to keep following orders. Same thing that happened in the military. Same thing that happened in medical. You have to follow the orders of the elite to keep your job. Mm-hmm. And so one of them is Stephen Friend. And so I was telling Kash Patel about this because we were on Reawaken tour together. And we became, I don't know if you guys ever saw Freedom Force. It's a little Lego stop action film, which is just an unbelievable thing a 12-year-old put together. And we were the 2 new characters. And that was in August of 23. And so we knew each other.
Personally, yeah?
The what?
You know Kash Patel personally?
I do, but yeah. I'm not having dinner with him. I'm not buying him a cup of coffee at
Gotcha.
Starbucks and
Okay.
having a chat. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But you end up knowing these things because you have chats in the green room and et cetera with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But so he knows me. I mean, Don Jr.'s done selfies with me. Eric's done selfies with me at Reawaken. But do we sit down and have other conversations? Not outside the green room. You know what I mean? So we're not meeting other times.
Mm-hmm.
But what Cash is doing is profound. The numbers he's accomplishing is profound. And you can tell the difference between Ray going to all these different offices, but nothing getting corrected. Okay. And now Cash comes in and he brought Stephen Friend back and gave him back pay because I told him everything. And I said the guy didn't even understand until I showed him the plaque on the back corner of the FBI building. The 2-block FBI building named the Hoover Building. Hoover was a Knights of Pythias. And the Knights of Pythias' first castle location was land granted, they said, by Lincoln. Lincoln wasn't behind this. It's the Knights of Pythias that took out Lincoln. So that building is on land that they granted to themselves. And they have castles in all the states that they granted to themselves. How are they doing all this? They were enacted by our Congress. So the entire Congress was in unity to bring all of this in 1864, guys. So it's not just a corporation in 1871. And so, so when Friend found that out, and I showed him the plaque on the back northwest corner of the Hoover Building, and then I showed that to Horowitz, these guys didn't know this. They didn't know that there was a connection of this. They didn't know that we were being controlled. But it's not just that. You have to be in these societies or you don't get to be in a position in the village town, And those are the notes I sent just briefly about this new thing in Seoul, Korea, where Juan was just over there and tore apart a web with an attorney. This is the attorney's name. I don't know if you can see it. He was just in the summit in Vegas in June, and I met him, and we've been corresponding. What they've done, China's been in control of elections all around the world, and especially America for the past same 35 years that God has had me on this fast track. I've been on a treadmill. I've never had a vacation since this whole thing started with me in 91. And China's been doing this since 91. But with this AWEB, it's an association of the world election bodies. And there's a man named YU. And YU was trained in China. And the Chinese plan is take over all these nations, and they don't even realize they're under communism under China. They don't even realize. So Yu gets all this training. And when does he come to America and move here and become an American? And nobody knew he was running all these elections. And he was over the machines. He was over the software. He was over all this stuff. And all the jurisdictions, he's managing jurisdictions of elections in the big areas all across America since 1986. So what else happened in 1986? And those of you who have the new book, turn to page 330. You're going to be shocked. This is in the FBI chapter. I'm not just trying to take on the FBI today, but it's in the FBI chapter. And on that page, you're going to see where he came in as a Secretary of the Navy. Then he became the Attorney General. He's the one who set up is Charles Joseph Bonaparte, the great nephew of who?
Napoleon.
Self-declared Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte comes into America, and he's our Secretary of the Navy. He's our Attorney General of our country. And then he sets up what? The Bureau of Investigation. He's the one that created the special agents of the Bureau of Investigation that under Hoover became the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You see?
Let me show this to folks. Let me pull up that book. You said it was page 330 in your new book?
Page 330 in the new book. And this is what it's going to tell you. He started a structure called the National Municipality League. And the National Municipality League, it was in the 1890s. I think 1894 is when they made it official. And here's the secret nobody noticed. He set up a merit-based system. They select all the candidates. You've never selected a candidate. This is going on in the 1800s, guys. And so then what happens, fast forward to 1986 in America, it becomes the National Civic League when Mr. Yu comes from China-trained Seoul, Korea, headquarters of American Association of World Election Bodies, and he's managing all of our elections. There's a National Municipal League, it should be Municipality League, 1894, and all your municipalities, your little villages. Why do villages have a trustee board? They're a corporation. All of these have corporations above them that we never knew that they have corporations above them. And we think we're voting based on who's on the ballot. You don't get to be on the ballot unless you meet their merit-based system to become a candidate.
Wow.
Do you see what I mean?
This is still ongoing.
This is ongoing. And I find out from Juan being in Seoul, Korea over the weekend in text messages during the middle of the night, AWEB. And so I said, is that the Association of World Election Bodies? And I don't get an answer. Okay. And then he goes on Jaco last Sunday and he's mentioning about 1986. I said, 1986. I kept asking Father, why is 1986 critical with the change of a word? Because the two words, there's nothing really different about the two words. But that's why they call our areas municipalities, and we fell for it. We didn't know. And then we think we're voting on people that are qualified. Doesn't mean they're qualified. You're finding out now none of them are qualified. Majority, in fact, I had a problem with Twitter when I put this out. I had the chart showing that 80% of our entire Congress, House and Senate, are dual citizens with Israel. Mm-hmm. We didn't know. But why are they for give money to Israel, give money to Ukraine, give money to Iran? Same guys.
This
same
is
people.
all being quarterbacked by China.
Yeah. And China's been in charge since 1991 of our everything. They've been managing our elections fully since 1991. He was over here in 1986 setting it all up for him. He was trained in China to come here and do this, but they've done it in every nation. It's to take over all the nations, control the world.
So this is exactly what President Trump was talking about when he gave that press conference just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. He didn't say 35 years. It's Juan that found out 35 years. And I said, I finally have an answer for the 35 years. He said, why? And I said, I've been on this intense pattern since this whole time. It was 92 when they did this to me in court on my corporation. 91 is when they started it. Everything that was done to me was against the law. And I had to go to the law library and find out how it was against the law, I had to find all the statutes and everything myself. No one helped me during any of this.
This is absolutely mind-blowing.
Isn't it?
Wow. My goodness.
So
okay.
This FBI chapter, I don't want us to miss out on talking about school choice today because all the parents have been asking me, how do we get to it? But guys, this is how deep this is. And this is how pervasive it is. So I wanted to make one comment. People keep saying, isn't the deep state done? And I thought he handled these people. And are we going to see perp walks? No, you're not, because it's military justice system. And so military justice, even if you're going to be court-martialed, the decision isn't made until the court-martial, but everything is available. So all these indictments are available to now get to this point to do this. So you're not going to see a CNN camera like they did with Roger Stone. You're not going to see them doing all of this. You're not going to see a lot of perp walks. I mean, and everybody said, well, Comey didn't get arrested. Comey should be in jail. Comey ain't going to be in jail. Comey is either going to be in front of a firing squad, or he's going to be hung, or he can't get out of it. He can't get out of it. He protected everybody.
Now,
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You guys are wondering how fast is it going to get done? And I keep saying it doesn't matter the timing, because guys, they've permeated everything. We don't even know. And they're all committed. Because why? Once you accept money from that group and you get involved, you can't get out. And your whole family is under. That's why Woodrow Wilson said on his deathbed, when he put us in Federal Reserve, IRS, senators, popular vote, 6-year terms, everybody else 4-year terms. Everybody was 2-year terms. And the Senate was picked from our Congress reps to our House reps to say who was going to represent the state the best. There isn't anybody in our Congress that's representing our states. They're all on international trips. They're all doing international. Guys, it is way out of whack. And we think that it's going to be resolved quickly. But here's why it can't be. They have minions everywhere. They have minions everywhere, and they all have to be dealt with, because this will swing right back in 50 years, and you won't even notice that it would be a blip on a screen that all of this effort was put in. Our guys have tried this 6 and 7 times since the Civil War. We have guys now that are still so committed because they're generations back were with Lincoln doing all of this. Did you know we even have an open window? Do you guys realize the Reconstruction Act that resulted in the corporation in 1871? Did you know that none of the Confederacy states voted for it? So there weren't enough votes of enough. You have to get enough states to agree. There weren't enough states to agree, but they did it anyway. This is how much trouble our structure is in.
So, okay. So let me ask you just kind of a broad-based question, because this is something that gets discussed within the Q community all the time. The level, basically three things that kind of all go together: the level of white hat control, the nature of the division in the military, and also the question of, are we under continuity of government right now? How would you basically how would you explain that to folks? Because a lot of people believe we're already under continuity of government. The military is in full control. Seems to me like you're painting a very different picture. So why don't you just kind of explain that, and then we can sort of segue into talking about the school choice and et cetera. But I want to
the military is in control. Military is the only way does not mean we're going to have martial law tomorrow and they're going to lock us in our houses. And to tell you the truth, when this gets to that point, we might prefer to be locked in our houses, because this is not going to be pretty, because there are going to be people you've known for 15, 20 years. You think they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And they've been operating with these people against us. And you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked. And right now, remember when COVID happened and everybody had to be seated 6 feet apart and all this kind of stuff. And even the churches did it.
Yeah.
People never knew who the people were sitting by you in the pews, because we thought the same. How many people thought their family members thought like they did until COVID and you couldn't have Thanksgiving together? So all of this has been to show. So to say they're in charge, they're trying to wake people up, and the deprogramming is not easy, because the programming was so thorough. That's why these 45 points, the minute the international attorney handed him to me, he said, God said, you're going to write a book about this, because we'd been talking about COVID the whole time. He helped like 400,000 military doctors and pilots. He knew if we didn't save them, we saw the genocide coming. Other people didn't see. So when all of this was pushing forward and we were pushing back against it, boom, he hands me this. And I said, these are horrible. I said, I'm going to put scriptures with these. And God stopped me. And I had to pull over on the side of the road between Chicago and Vegas, August of 23. And God said, you can't just put scriptures. We can't just think it's just a few people. He said, you've got to make it a training manual so that they know what the truth actually is and how this all happened. Because if you don't turn it into a training manual, it'll never continue to the 3rd and 4th generation. So I became Sheila again. And I said, do you know how much my books have changed in a decade? Of course he did. You know what I mean? And I said, all this stuff that I've been telling people, how am I going to write a book for 300 or 400 years to get all of these generations to then learn how to live it? And he goes, am I not going to help you? And I go, I know you're going to help me. And then boom, this book just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it was like 400 pages. And I said, Father, it's 400 pages. We got to stop at this point. And he goes, well, I just want you to do a personal letter then. And I said, a personal letter for what? I said, I do my little just between us notes at the end of every book, because then I can personally tell the people these are the main key things. Make sure that you understand them. And so I put it at the end of the book, like a couple of pages. And he said, well, I want a personal letter in front of the introduction. And I said, so like maybe 5 or 6 pages? He said, maybe a little more. So the introduction doesn't start till page 107. Not because of Juan. It was going to start on 99. Then he had me add Kofefe. But it's like 10 pages of Aleph. They have to not just know that he is life and truth. How are you going to get in relationship with truth? Because when you get in relationship with truth, he'll operate with you the way he's operating with me. And he needs everybody operating this way to be, all pistons going, 90 miles an hour down the road, because that's what's going to get us through this. Because the Pilgrims banned the church knowing that all of this was going to just creep right back in. And that's what it did. And they did a 500-year plan of banning it because their kids were groomed. And the dads were killed, boiled in oil or burned at the stake if you teach your children the Lord's Prayer. And so when all of this was happening, and their separatist church pastor was burned at the stake in front of his 9 children, and the youngest one was still at the mother's breast. It's right in the little children's primer. David Barton refreshed this and renewed it. They trained up their children with this little primer with the truth, with scriptures, and all of the numbers were with scriptures. All of the letters were with names of martyrs in the Bible and important people in the Bible. And they have it in a paperback, and you can get it on Amazon. It's no longer available at christianbook.com. But this is how crazy it is. There is the pastor. Do I have it right? There's the pastor being burned at the stake because he's a separatist church and not in the church structure of Constantine, which was New World Order. They created Catholic Church. The word means universal. Y'all come, y'all, but it's all pagan Gentile worship. We have been hoodwinked for way generations back.
So
that's why we are where we are. Yeah.
Do you believe that we're currently under continuity of government right now and the military is unified behind Trump, or is there more complexity to that?
I'm going to send you a document because I can't, I don't think it'll come on through Present, but it's called Military Government. And this was done because they'd already tried to do this 6-7 times. And Eisenhower gave all this information to Kennedy, which is why Kennedy was trying to tell us it was too soon to tell us. The evil is all around you. The evil around Kennedy, the reasons to kill him, he wanted to come back to silver and gold back like the Constitution. That he took us out of Vietnam. We'd been in Vietnam for many years already. And the guys went over and studied it. When I was with Blue Shield, one of the guys as a director of human resources that came in, he said, I'm supposed to tell you this. Guys, this is back in the end of the 80s before I did my corporation in the end of the 80s. And so what happened? He said, I was sent over to Vietnam. And I said, sir, this is just a civil war. We got to get out of it. We have no reason to be over there. We were in the Civil War of Korea. We were in the Civil War. See what I mean? None of this should we even been in. And he got us out. And on the flight coming back, they got us back in. So whether you call it continuity of government, they aren't even there. Most of the time, they're not even there. They aren't making decisions for us. They can't even do a Save America Act with our elections. I mean, they're proving they're not with us. Okay. So, but this military government document, I'll send it to you. It's a PDF. I wish I could send it out on X and everything, guys, but it's a PDF, and I don't know a way to get it out there, but your technical abilities will probably help us. But it was signed June of 1949. Okay. Everything that's in that, Eisenhower gave to Kennedy. And you'll see in it on the community section where the community, it says right there, this will be a huge binder by the time you guys are ready to do this. Because they knew it was going to take a long time to get so many more people involved, so much more going on. And still, when we got to 2015, a lot of people don't know this. They wanted to do a coup on Obama. If you do a coup, you've lost your country. You go into a civil war, lost your country. You do an insurrection, and that's what Sidney Powell wanted to write up, and that's why she wasn't allowed to come back to the White House the next day. You can't do that. And that's why when I was saying I was helping with this restored republic, they said a senator told us how we could do it. That wasn't true. The guy got sentenced to prison for sedition. Now he's out of prison, and he's back doing it again and wants me to be a spokesperson for him. And since I'm not, now they're speaking against me. You speak against me. Guys, insurrection and sedition are when you're trying to operate against the nation. We're trying to arrest the people, and the brigs are full. The Gitmo is full, and they keep expanding it. So we're still working on it. But guys, there's more and more people committing insurrection and sedition. And once you're warned of it, these elections are high crimes. They're crimes, they're war crimes against our nation to try and take over a nation. And so you keep warning them. And that's why the president said, we've got it all. We know it. We know who they are. We've got it all. We've caught them all. And they're still committing the crimes in the primary this year. So I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about election, and we can do that.
Yeah,
but they're still committing the crimes this year. And when you are committing insurrection or sedition acts, and then you are told in 20 in 22, in 24, and now you're still doing it in 26, and he gave you everything. And here's the final two things. Every county was warned, clean up your voter rolls. They didn't even check for duplicates, not one county. Why? They want to be paid. You're being paid. It's your job, and you haven't done it, so we're asking you to do it. You had 6 months to do it. They didn't do it.
I really want to see that document. Can you send that to me? You said it was from 1949.
Yep, military government.
Military government. I really want to see that. I want to read that. Like,
because every one of these sections is going to be a big binder, and that's where we are now. And the military is ready, and that's what they have told me. They're ready that they're going to be like some brownouts or blackouts or whatever, because you have to do that to change Google, to change the internet, to change the financial system, to change it. They're going to have to be disruptions. Have you noticed even StreamYard? StreamYard went through a major thing just a few days ago, and it was so taking like 10, 15 minutes to get on StreamYard. And so there are things that just have to change, and the companies are changing all of this stuff. But that's what they were saying they were going to do, because they said the military has done this study, and in these books, for example, when you have an electrical outage, they know exactly where the people are that have the medical equipment that can't be without electrical. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's that thorough now. But what I'm going to send you was from 1949, and they had it all figured out, because they had tried this all these times. But you needed a Trump, and they went to Trump, and Trump said, "You can't do a coup. You can't do a coup. We got to do it the right way." And so he's been paying the price to do it the right way.
And Q mentioned that. I believe it was in Drop 140, if my memory serves me correctly. If Trump didn't win,
mm-hmm.
then they were prepared to do the unthinkable.
Yep.
Which was essentially, if he didn't legitimately win the vote and Hillary got in there, then they were prepared to actually perform a coup.
Well, and have you told your people about the Kraken? Remember when Sidney Powell said, "Release the Kraken, release the Kraken"? It's a supercomputer at Oak Ridge, right? Did you guys know that?
No. Tell the audience about that.
Well, Obama said you got to decommission it, and our guys chose not to. And I'm going to give you both sides. There's the 200 generals that invited him in. Those 200 generals are all trusted. A lot of the guys that came to Quantico, we put them through their own, what's that thing when they hook you up to a machine and and they tested them because they said they were telling the truth, and so they used their machines on them because
polygraph.
Yeah, they do it on us. They created psychiatry. This is in the new book. They created psychiatry and then used on us, who are truth speakers, to say we weren't speaking the truth. And so they used their machines on them. And but a lot of those guys were walked out the back door. There were many, many flights that departed and went down near Cuba area that day. So that kind of thing was already planned and prepared. But that was the first time we found out that it's the British Commonwealth who set up all these military bases that we've been funding and paying for and sending our guys over there to be killed for their causes that and you see what I mean? So all of this has been going on. In the midst of that, this military government has just been expanding and expanding and expanding. So we're taking care of everything going on. So when the 200 generals asked him to do this, then the Kraken that was supposed to be decommissioned, they didn't decommission. The Kraken holds the election information going back many, many presidential elections. Okay. So we've got all the data on, and so you think it's just the names you know now. These names and these family lineages go way back, and it's everybody in their family. So just like when Woodrow Wilson said, I sacrificed for saving my own personal family, I sacrificed my nation. That's as easy as I can say his deathbed confession. So he knew he was giving up his country, but he didn't want to be killed. He didn't want anybody else to be killed. The families married into each other. The neighbor was Lamar, who became a Supreme Court justice to help him do some of these things and get them all passed through, who was too sick to be an attorney in Augusta, Georgia anymore. But Taft was forced to come and meet with him and make him a Supreme Court justice so it wouldn't look like Woodrow Wilson had done it. So then both families were in jeopardy. Do you see what I mean? So that's what they do. You have no idea the stuff they will do to you because you took an oath in the societies and you knew these things could come upon you, but there's never been any consequences. These guys for generations have never paid any consequences, and now it's all hitting the fan. And that's why you see this. But the deep state is not just the names you know. The puppet masters are names you don't even know. And go back and think, if everything that we are involved in, including the trustee boards of the little villages, these corporations, you don't know who's running those either. So we have to tear this whole thing down. Like President Jefferson said, once it's corrupted, once there's an evil, you can't just pull out that evil and replace it. The whole thing, you have to come back to its original concept, its original intent. And this country was a republic. So when they tried to rebuild these republics, when this guy got sentenced to prison, then I found out it's sedition. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be involved in sedition. And so now he's out of prison, but he's on probation and people are believing him. But there's a split now of a guy that was in with him that now there's two. And now they said, well, now they're the two governments you're talking about, Sheila. And no, anything that you're trying to build as a republic, and there's like 8 different organizations that have been in touch with people that have been in touch with me. There's a guy that said that he needed payment for putting the republic together the right way and that the president's attorneys are working with him. And the guy sold shares. I said, guys, shares are for a private corporation. Stocks are for a public corporation. You're paying a guy who says he's rebuilding our republic. He's not even connected with the military. And all of these now that said that they were connected with this senator and that was all a lie are now saying they're connected with the military. And I said, do you think if the military was involved, there would be 8 different organizations that are getting in touch with me, wanting me to back one of them and use my name with any one of them? There would be unity, guys.
Yeah.
If they were working with the military, there would be unity. And that's what Department of War is about. That's what, I mean, it used to be Department of War, guys. It wasn't Department of Defense. And we're not going to be defending all this stuff globally anymore. We're getting clean relationships.
And so to the best of your knowledge and your information, because obviously you have a handle on this stuff, how would you characterize the military right now? I mean, we know about the 200 generals. We certainly know that Trump is the commander in chief, but is there a lot of rot, deep state rot still infested in the military that hasn't been dealt with yet?
That's been the focus, and that's been dealt with because now you're starting to even see the guys that they pushed out that weren't going to get the vax. Those guys are now being reinstated. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with the FBI. They're real guys that left are now being reinstated and receive back pay.
That's great news.
So, that is happening. It had to happen, and that's what's going to get them is a fitness test. But guys, the evil is everywhere. I don't know how to describe it to you other than a lot of these guys who thought they knew these guys for 15, 20 years are now finding out they've been operating with the enemy.
Okay.
Our Congress not even looking at our election when the people were upset about the election. That's the problem with Tina Peters. Did you know our election results the day of the election are supposed to go to the House of Representatives to be stored there? So Tina Peters did it. And then when the audit was done, she sent the revised one. That made them responsible. They don't want to be responsible. So Tina Peters has to be put in jail on they're all federal elections. We don't have state elections. Every 2 years is when Congress members are supposed to be, you re-vote for them or they go, so there have to be replacements every 2 years. They had 2-year terms even in the 70s after this was changed by Woodrow Wilson, because I found it's in my 5th book and a little bit of it's in the new book. They had 2-year terms. One guy had 14 terms. And I'm like, how do you have 14 terms? But 14 times 2. So guys, that's why. So I don't want to do a rant on these individual things because I want your questions and we still want to do that school choice too.
Yeah, well, we're going to segue into that, but just one final point of clarity here. So the 1949 document on a military government is primarily what the white hats are operating under. Like that is is that the structure, the code, the rules of the laws that they're conducting this operation with? Is that an fair accurate?
That's the guts. That's the structure, the outline, to include all things, because that's why they just kept expanding upon it to make sure they didn't leave Americans out. And that's why Trump keeps saying Americans are our first responsibility. Americans are the ones we're going to protect. So if you're still here illegally, it's not going to be good for you. It's if you're still, and people didn't think they could find them. That's why they gave them phones. That's why they put a lot of them on ankle bracelets after this last one. And now for no people to get through this border, they said it wasn't possible. It is possible. What I can do, I can send it to you by email right now if you want to bring up the front of it.
Yes,
but it was actually signed in 1949. But there's another one, and I think it's unconventional warfare. So I want to make sure you have all of these.
Yeah, I want to see both of those, and I really wanted to dig into them.
Have you seen the military accountability letter of 1/1 of 2024 and the 11-page signature?
No, I have not. Send me that.
Okay. I'm going to send that to you.
I have
too.
a lot of homework to do.
I know. I love this. I love this because that's why everybody said, why aren't you on with him? And I said, I don't know. It would be timing.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to copy this one and put it on my desktop. And then military government.
That way I can go through them, and certainly we can, in subsequent interviews, we can talk about this stuff in more detail.
Mm-hmm.
But, build upon my understanding, because that's I think one of the most important things to point out to folks is that this is how the White Hats are conducting this operation. Like this is the guts, like you said. I really want to read that. And prior to talking to you, to be honest, I hadn't even heard about this.
You're making me feel great now. There's another one about warfare. And I'll find that one and get that one to you too. But I'm going to email both of these so you can share right now. You can share the covers on them. And the thing that's beautiful about the military accountability letter, we had 37,000 signatures in a matter of a few days. It came out on 1/1 of 2024, and it came out at 4 a.m. because 4 a.m. is obliterating their structure. That's why on the Georgia Guidestones, I have the whole video from the military that they sent me that day, July 6th. It happened to be the 76th birthday on July 6th of George W. Scherf. Their Bush was only used in America, so that was the SS code name. You know all that, right?
Yes, that I do know.
So it was on his birthday, and I'm just putting the titles in the header, and then I'm attaching the two.
Okay.
So that way you can show it to them, and yeah, we can. These are all related. I even have the summons that was sent out to bring them to Quantico. And the thing that everybody questioned, I don't think this could be real, Sheila, because it says His Excellency, the President of the United States. And I said, did you know he just got the title back when he was in England? That's why I think he really finalized Israel and America in September of 25, is because he was over in England. And remember when he rode in the King's carriage?
Yeah.
Okay. Then he comes back and he has a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does that, he calls it the State of Israel. That's the State of Israel, Inc. And nobody knew that. And both our corporation and the corporation over Israel were both held in the city of London, in the city of London, inside London. And so, and riding in the King's carriage, but people didn't know that we have never been free and we've never been independent. Did you know that from King George, that's why George is where I've had to be, is that King George was what Georgia was named after. And that King George was the king of Ireland, the king of France, that's why we weren't fighting France separate from England. We were fighting under King George. And so Georgia was named after King George. And that's why in the first Continental Congress in 74, they didn't have unity against England because the team from Georgia never even showed up.
Mm.
Okay. So then they fasted and prayed, and then it was May 17 of 76. That's why he picked May 17 for the prayer and fasting and repentance call to prayer over America. And then those 7 weeks matched up with the 7 weeks of the Feast of Weeks between Passover and Pentecost. So the president got us doing a double set of sevens. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Our team is so on top of this. But all of us need to get involved in all of this. Now, you should have both.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little later.
In your email.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, looks like I got something here. Okay, military accountability. And okay, so military government. And we're not going to go through all of this today because I want, this is a 53-page document, and it's something that I have never seen before. And I'm really, really glad that you brought this to my attention. So here we go. Here's what Sheila was just talking about. So this is the document from 1949.
Signed June of 1949. Mm-hmm.
1949. And this has been an evolving document up until this day, where the military has basically been using this as the structure for the Q operation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know, but a lot of the generals that are trusted now are lineage all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, because they've been fighting this ever since. And they lost relatives along the way when they tried this 6-7 times since the Civil War.
Wow. So just to read this one part here, and then we'll show folks the other document. This manual is a restatement of the principles, policies, and functions of military government. It conforms substantially to the subject matter of Field Manual 27-5, Civil Affairs / Military Government. And then it goes on from there. So I want to read this, but this ultimately is, so what you're looking at now, property of the U.S. Army, and this is the table of contents. So this is something we're going to have to revisit for sure, but this is huge. And this is actually something that I might actually post on my social media as well, so that folks can have or maybe I'll put a link to it in the description of the video so folks can check that out. So that's one. And then the other, let me stop share for just a moment here. Let's see. Okay. And this is military accountability. So let's pull this up as well. I'm trying to take all of this in right now. My mind is kind of spinning here. So once again, this one, Sheila, is from
Profound.
Okay,
January 1, 2024 at 4 a.m. they were put on notice. And as you scroll down, you see 4 where you see some capital letters. Can you expand to see that paragraph?
This here?
Yep.
Millie. Yeah. Okay.
See, debilitating vaccine injuries. It gets to why we're coming after you. General Milley, Admiral Grady, General da-da-da, and they said, and numerous others. They've been putting them through court-martials since that day. And then after court-martials to tribunals, and none of you will have a pension.
Wow.
And then when you go all the way down to the bottom, and we could do one on this, the military government, the summons, and these are the signatures, but right down at the bottom, you see that last sentence, next to the last sentence, we will fight is in bold to enforce that law and put an end to the 2-tiered justice system. The Constitution is the supreme law of our land. May future generations see our efforts, and God willing, may they also be recipients of the great gift of liberty that we have had the honor of safeguarding. And that's been their goal. And this whole letter is that profound, guys. It's like reading a founding document by our forefathers. This letter is so well put together. And then there were so many people mad at him and said, well, I would have helped with this. And they go, we had to keep it secret because you couldn't let this out. Because all of those guys listed there and numerous others were all served at 4 a.m. on that day. All of this has been going on in the background. And then these are 11 pages. 11 means war. Okay. So 11 pages of top guys that signed this, but we had over 37,000 signatures in a matter of hours. They did a Q, they did a X spaces that night. And they said, we'll do 30 minutes, 60 minutes. If you guys want 90 minutes, we'll do 90 minutes. At 3.5 hours, I had to beg off. I'd already pushed interviews back. I had to beg off because I wanted to tell everybody about this. Yeah. But I was compelled to listen. And they had Flynn on like 4 times by then. And then I was writing to, you remember Scotty Martin? did Scotty Films.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he was on there, and I knew he's the one who told me about, Sheila, you got to come on to this. And so, because we'd been communicating and sharing intel, just like LT of And We Know, for years, you know. And so he goes, Sheila, you got to come on to this. And so I'm writing to him because I had direct access to him. And I said, the guy you got to get on here is Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers. He ran for governor in Texas in this. He was in the primaries where it flipped back to be Abbott again.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is proving that these guys are going to keep committing the crimes. So these 11 pages of that. And when I was writing to him about Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers, I could hear his voice in the background. He was already coming on to give his consent to this and approval of this and et cetera, et cetera. So keeping up with this, because guys, they're everywhere. The enemy, foreign and domestic, they're everywhere. There are as many people in America destroying us as there are infiltrators here destroying us.
Absolutely.
Just take a breath. You link that in, and you don't want this to be done quickly. You don't find that this is, something easy to just, I want it done right. I've told again and again, I don't care when this gets done, because guys, even when all of this gets done, we're going to have decades of cleaning all of this up to strip it off to have what we need to have going forward. We cannot let them seep in and do this to us again. So,
wow, that's amazing. All right. Well, like I said, I got a lot of homework to do, Sheila, and I appreciate you sharing all that information, because I had heard about now that I saw the letter, I had heard about that. I'd never actually seen the document, but this, the 1949 military government, that's something that I wasn't aware of until just now. And I'm really, really excited to now, was there another document you were going to send me as well? I thought there were 3.
Yes. I don't know if it's unconventional warfare but it's another big one too.
Okay.
It's so big that I had to get a separate delivery address from Flynn to do that one. And then he said, but now wait a minute. He said, you don't have my direct email. And I said, no, sir, I don't. He said, it is PDF? He said, let's see if it'll go by email, but he gave me both. So I have a couple of addresses for him, a couple of emails for him. And because otherwise I was just texting.
I would love to see that one too.
Yeah.
Take a look at that. All right. Well, I know we want to talk about, there's so many different directions that we could go here, but I know you wanted to talk about some things that are actually happening right now in terms of school choice in Georgia. So why don't we pivot here and take it away. Let us know what's the latest and what's going on with it. Because this is a really good example of the fact that we're still fighting the swamp. There is a large degree, of course, of military control, but that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods. And we're very much engaged in this battle against evil. And Sheila is going to lay out a perfect example. So go ahead.
Okay. Now you have an email from me. The one that had the Korea information in it has an attachment. It's a PDF, and it's the Georgia school choice.
Okay. Let me.
So, and I'll just introduce it right now while you're pulling that up, because last Thursday night, I was on a very disturbing phone call with House of Hope, Village of Hope in Valdosta, Georgia. And I've known this family since 2013, end of 2013. And I was only in Georgia a couple months by then. And so when I was talking with them, they said that they had set up this whole thing for school choice. And I said, oh, I'm so glad you're doing it. And they said, why? And I said, because President Trump, when the EOs happen, the executive orders happen in DC, people get excited. What you don't realize maybe is that we have to pull them in and get them enacted in our state. Because everything they flipped the switch on us and made everything like a monarchy in DC. It was never supposed to be that way. And that's what Trump's pushing it back. So don't try and make him a dictator or a monarch. We got to pull it back into our states. So he did school choice in the very first term. Now he's finally breaking down and destroying and ending the Department of Education, because all of this is against our children. All of this, the whole thing, the textbooks, everything is against our children. And the parents started the Republican Party mainly because in 1854, because 1850, they put in compulsory public school education. They were training their children. They were brilliant children. They did things. They went on with their lives. It wasn't all of this public school and all of it being funded through public school. And you're finding out all the funding and all the bonds for the public schools have all been stolen, guys. It's all coming out. All of this has been all against us.
Part of the fraud.
We haven't helped our children. Yep. Everything's been against.
So it's kind of a two-pronged attack. It's been to indoctrinate our children, like you were just talking about, but also basically as a front, a money laundering operation.
Well, and Luciferian, it's Alice Bailey. She married Foster Bailey, and he made her change because he said the parents aren't happy that you're calling it Lucifer Publishing. And where was it being published out of? The UN in New York.
The UN, yep.
And so she made it Lucia's Trust, and our Congress paid for all of that rehab and everything of the building. President Trump's the one, he's the only one that tried to get him to do it properly. And I saw all of the videos on him talking to the people before he came before Congress and said, you got to get it off shores. You got not bring all these entourages of all of their people having, no liability in America, do whatever you want in America. You got to stop this. And he said, you could sell that building in New York and more than pay for what you want to do with another UN building. And now you know what he's telling us? And people didn't hear this. He said, do you know, I found out something very interesting. Lucia's Trust owns the UN building. He's putting it out there so you'll start doing research. We paid millions and millions, way over budget. At like every 3 weeks, they were having an Italy architect redo all of the plans and paying him $600,000 every 2 or 3 weeks. And it was like, so that's how the school books happen. So anyway, now the school choice. So I get this call Thursday night, and they just wanted prayer. And I said, I'm going to do more than prayer. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I've been on this phone call with you. I'm doing some research. They were doing some research. They sent me 2 links. I sent those to you so you can put them below the interview. Guys, what they're doing with school choice is unbelievable. And school choice was passed in the first election, or the first term of President Trump. That's back in 2017-18 when he did all of this, because he knew how bad this was. So then come forward, and in 24, when states started to put it in, Georgia puts it in. So they put it in 24. They haven't issued any money yet, but they got $225 million. So they spent their time doing what? Setting up a commission, a financial commission. And that's on the 2 pages that I have. This is one of the links. One of them is about school choice. The other link is about the parenting requirements. Did you know they're requiring that parents, if you want to have your children homeschooled, the parents both have to have a high school diploma? Mm-hmm. When did that become a requirement? And then,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's layer upon layer, guys. And then do you know what else? You have to be in a public school now in 26, this term going in this fall, you have to be in a public school that they authorize. Do you know where the list of schools are that they authorized? They're in the Atlanta area. Did you know that the county that House of Hope is in isn't authorized to receive any funds? Who decides which county? Because it's supposed to be school choice for all parents. So all of your children you use the money and you go and take your children where you want them to be educated, and you decide, leaving it up to the parents.
Right.
And now they've done all of these restrictions. So there's a parenting restriction link, then there's this link, and then there's the commission. So I don't know if we can bring up the 2 pages. I don't know how much time you have today, but the 2 pages, I just did a quick study, and you can do this in every state, because you got to find out, did your state even enact school choice?
Where's the 2 pages? I'm a little.
It's the PDF that I attached.
Is that the
2
Clint,
links?
The Clint
I'm sorry.
Dixon? Is that the Clint Dixon legislation?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The Georgia. I just called it Georgia school choice.
Is this the one?
That's the other link. So this is the link. One is about parental. One is about school choice. These are the 2 links that can be added below the interview. And then there's a PDF that I sent that's 2 page and a half. And that PDF should just be called Georgia's School Choice.
Okay, yes, hold on. Yeah, I think I got it.
This is just Sheila Holm. While I'm on the call with them, they're sending me the 2 links that Patriot Underground just gave you. I almost said your name. And so that he gave you. So now as we quickly as we can go through this, so the Senate Press Office in February 26 put another bill through. Okay. that Georgia's participation in the federal school choice tax program. And as we scroll down, the Georgia Senate approved a bill to nearly double the tax breaks, raising the cap for this school choice to 225 million. Guys, this has been since 24. You see this? April 23 of 24. Legislator put into law Senate Bill 233, providing Georgia students in underperforming schools with greater freedom and choice. And the list of schools is in the Atlanta area. Okay. Now here come down to the Georgia Promise. The Georgia Promise is what the parents are supposed to receive to choose where they want to send their kids. And they're saying in the restrictions that not only do your parents, if you want to apply for this, your parents have to both have, your mom and dad have to have high school diplomas. What's it any of their business? And then because you have a heart for your children. And they signed this bill for this Georgia Promise for the 225 million back in 2024. How did they calculate the 225 million? I'm willing to bet you they calculated it on all students in Georgia, 225 million, and they're going to only give $6,500 to the family. So how did this get? Yeah. So how did this get decided? Look at the next link. The next link is Georgia Student Finance Commission. It's a .gov organization that's been established for what? The Georgia Promise Scholarship Program. They're calling it a scholarship that they're giving, and they're only giving it to those they approve.
That conform to all of these
the requirements. And you have to be in a public school of their authorized list this semester to get the money when in 27. So they've had the money since 24. Okay, let's put these pieces together.
Oh my goodness.
They've had the money since 24. The program's been available since 2017, 2018. Okay. And parents just kept saying, Sheila, you're mentioning it, but where's my form to fill out? And everybody, we've become a society that wants the media to tell us even to go find the forms. Okay. And that's not how this is going to work in the future. I did this research just because I couldn't believe what they were telling me. Now, here's what's really horrible. House of Hope helps rehab gals because when they gave Ritalin and other drugs to our kids in school, they became drug addicts afterwards. I've been working with parents on this for a long time, because how do you get your kids back off of drugs? Because they're the ones that put them on the drugs, but they don't care. And so do you know what they've got in the restrictions? That if you're in a rehab education process, you cannot apply for this. So now they've hired the consultants from, because they brought Florida people in who are already doing this in Florida. It's already done. So it's going to be different in every state. And they hired consultants who did it for Florida to come up and set everything up. They hired the 4 teachers, got them all together. They already have 11 gals. The 12th one is coming. They're going to have these 12 that they're going to be doing the education process for. It's going to cost them more than $20,000 personally, in addition to what they're already paying, because they're not going to get any of the $6,500 until 27. And their gals would have to go to a public school this fall to qualify to even apply for the $6,500 next semester. So all of these bills are going to fall back on them. So they've got a $20,000 hit on top of paying for the teachers, paying for the program, paying the consultants, doing all of the stuff they were required to do. Do you see the problems here?
I sure do. Unbelievable. And this is amazing.
And then, okay, now look at the Senate, what they're saying. The Senate bill is going to offer vouchers. You're not supposed to apply and qualify for a promise, a Georgia Promise. It's called a scholarship. It's vouchers for $6,500. So they're using that and putting it over to this finance commission to be the ones to distribute the money. But you have to go through their process.
You have to jump through
and
all
I think there's more on the next page, isn't there? Or is this it?
That was it. That was it. Yep.
So we went through all of them. So do you see how crazy this is? And I'm so thankful because nobody knows this yet. And so here we are thinking that school choice is going to free up the children and the parents to be able to choose where they want to take them, because people are paying all sorts of money for Christian education. They're using the same darn textbooks, guys. You're not. And in Georgia, when I came in 2013, the parents were paying $175 a month for pre-K and $750 for first grade. What families have that kind of money? That was more than a mortgage payment at that time. I don't know what the mortgage payments are now, but guys, we're not helping. And so here's all this money. It's been sitting there. And you know what happens? They gain interest on this because they've got it in their account.
Yep.
So they don't just have 225 million anymore. They have interest on that since 2024, and they're not going to start issuing it till 2027. Are
How
you
much is getting siphoned off of that in the meantime?
Well, because the commission has to be paid for all the work they're doing to restrict the people.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it just goes to show you. So President Trump, issues an executive order, even passes a law, but it gets filtered down to the states, and this is what they do. That's where the corruption really kicks in.
And I wanted to give you that example because all I did was put Georgia school choice, and all of that information came up to me within a matter of seconds. So whatever state you're in, look at Nebraska school choice, California school choice, because you'll see your state may not have even gone for it.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, I'm going to share that document as well. I'm going to have to put that into the description of the video. So we're going to do the military government one. We're going to do the irregular warfare, the letter, the 1124 letter. We're going to do the document you just had up on school choice. Now, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Because we're at like an hour and 45 minutes. I was kind of aiming for maybe a 2-hour interview. So was there anything else you wanted to touch upon before we kind of wrap things up? I did have maybe a couple questions we might not get to this time, but that's okay. I wanted to make sure.
Why don't we do those? Because, we could cut off some of the beginning if you want to, because we did the video of my life.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean,
I don't want to overdo for the people, but I want to answer the questions because I love your questions. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and I love your answers. So this is fantastic. So here we are. Like I said, we're in the middle of August, and clearly, as we've laid out today, that this is not going to be a process things are going to get wrapped up within the next several months or whatever. I think it's important for folks to manage expectations. That's one of the things that kind of keeps coming back as a theme over and over again. But nevertheless, every time we're facing a big election, there's always a lot of speculation. And you'll recall that President Trump, I think it was just a few days ago, I want to say he was doing an interview with Wayne Allen Root, if I'm remembering correctly. As a matter of fact, let me see if I have it on my X here. Oh yeah, I did. I actually pulled this up. So let's go ahead and just watch this brief clip where he was talking about the possibility of declaring a national emergency with regard to the SAVE Act and the Senate's the Congress's refusal to pass that and so forth. So this is what President Trump had to say. Very short clip, and then I want to get your take. Let me see that on screen. Yes, we can. Okay, here we go.
Because it's so hard to get the Senate to do anything, now they're on recess, they don't get anything done if they never get the Save America Act done. You have the right to declare a national security emergency for elections. And the Supreme Court ruled in 1983 under Reagan that INS versus Chadha, that if you declare a national security emergency as the President of the United States, they can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So if you do this in the next month, we will get photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots. And
let me just say that stranger things have happened. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Because it's so hard to get this.
All right, so really short clip there, but he gave a pretty interesting response. What is your take on that as we're approaching the midterms? Obviously, pretty much everybody in the country wants the Save America Act passed. It's been a huge point of frustration for folks that the Senate hasn't been able to or hasn't been willing to move on that. And President Trump's response to that, declaring a national emergency to implement the key aspects of the SAVE Act, voter ID, proof of citizenship, et cetera, et cetera. So what are your thoughts?
There's two things that we can't correct or change or go back and resolve. Number one, we mentioned the voter rolls. They had 180 days, 6 months to clean up the voter rolls, and they chose to not even check for duplicates. And that's every county. There was not one county that that did anything or reported anything in our entire country. Then the second thing is there was corruption in the primary elections, and there were people who were put in on a candidate for the general election that were not selected by the people. Now, how do we know that? The president had an executive order explaining elections. I believe it was 107 and signed at 107 in the afternoon. That's what some of the military guys said. And that's even the strategy team with the president have said that. So what he just was telling them, this is what he told them what the Constitution is. Same day voting, no early voting, no machines, no mail-in ballots, same day count, report to the House of Representatives, which they have decided to quit doing, which they have to do because those have to be permanent records, and no counting after. And look what happened to our primaries. And guys are saying, well, well, Seoul, Korea went ahead. They knew there were problems. They went ahead, and now they're a communist country again. And the president that the people wanted is now in prison. Same thing happened in Brazil. Bolsonaro's in prison. I don't know if I can pronounce the guy in Seoul, Korea, but they were with us at the summit. And that's the attorney that I mentioned that I met. And we've been in communication since, and he's following me on X. And so you can find him there. And he's just like JK and then SO, I think it is, or something like that. So anyway, you can find him on my X page, he responding. So we can't let it go forward. Because if we let it go forward, the results are the results, because here we are. But now here's what our president has done and paid the price for. The crimes were already known before 2020. Our guys had to stay on top of things in 2016 to not let it happen in 2016. They had no idea. That's why he said everybody get out and vote. That proved all the problems of the duplicates and everything else, but we still stayed ahead of it. That's the only way he got in 2016. Yep. Okay. So then in 2020, I really think they had to let it happen, because you've got to prove, because they were committing the crimes in 2016, but there was nothing to arrest him for because he won. But all these downlines, there's so many people that should not be in these positions. But again, we already went over Bonaparte today. We already went over how this U came in America in 1986. Guys put all that together. And at that time, we didn't know all this was going on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then you come forward and they committed the same crimes again in 22. And blessed Dinesh D'Souza, the 2,000 mules. And they said, this is only like 1% of like 50 different little election areas. And this is how bad it is. Do you see?
Yep.
But people were like, it didn't seem that bad. I watched 2,000 years, you know what I mean? There were millions of people doing it across our country. And that's why the deep state is not just the ones you know. They're all the people connected with them. All the people being paid by him, all the people that are working for him, all the people, they have to have the money. And so for the money, they commit the crimes. But now those are insurrection and sedition crimes against our country, because it's war crimes where you're trying to take over a nation.
Yep.
So it's not just the other nations. And even the Five Eyes were in on it. Our allies were in on it. But there's 111 nations that were in on it. And when one says 71, even and 72 is America, is that we have people in America involved. There's 101 nations that were affected by all of this. 111 involved with us, because they're using people from those nations to be a part of this. Okay, so they're getting everybody. They're putting a net over everybody to be arrested. Do you see? Mm-hmm. This goes much deeper than you can possibly even imagine. I'm just trying to give you snippets of it so you can start to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
So if you realize how severe this is and how horrible it is, because he warned them in 20, he warned them in 22, he warned them, well, 2018, he warned them, 2022, we come up to 24, they commit the same crimes. So then it was so widespread that the majority of Americans already knew we got rigged elections. Now we know that this has been really, really bad. And they commit the same crimes in the 26 primaries. And now I got a notice in San Diego where they're going to be mailing out the ballots again. And they want you to verify if you're you and is this your address. So what they've got is, if this is your address and this is your voting location and this is your name, you have no reason to contact us. That's not verification.
Mm-mm.
And then you flip it over and it says it's for the 2026 gubernatorial, the governor election. It's not a governor election. Every election is a federal election because there's always Congress people that are up for election.
Right.
So it's always a federal election. All the results have to go to the House. They are so far away from the truth because the truth is no longer in them. And what they've made it so we don't know the truth. And if the truth is not in you, you can't discern the evil they're doing. So that's why I'm warning you, be careful what you're doing. And that's why it was so powerful what you were saying, is that if you are involved in any of this, I've had people write to me and say, well, I was a judge for the election in 2020 and 22 and 24, and I was signing off on documents. And did you say something and did you see something and not say something? Were you aware of any crimes that were being committed? Because it's not about those deceived. Even in the church, Father isn't mad at the people that are being deceived. He's mad at the deceivers, because the deceivers knew the truth in seminary. And then they said, well, just don't tell the people, because we don't want to ruin all those amazing memories and traditions of Christmas and Ishtar, Easter. We don't want to ruin all of that for them. So keep lying to them so the truth is not in them, so that they are not. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where we are. And they're everywhere, guys. They're everywhere. They're your neighbors. They're the people at the grocery store who work elections. And it's not just the people in the elections. It's the people involved in the entire process.
The entire infrastructure is corrupt. Absolutely.
Millions and millions of people. And you have no idea. They're your neighbors or your relatives or your,
Right down to the local level. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And
all the way down to the village, who has a trustee board. Nobody ever asked, why do I have a trustee board for a village?
So if I'm reading your answer correctly, you think that this could get pretty interesting around the 2026 election. We might actually see a declaration of a national emergency. Is that?
Well, I think Steve Bannon is saying it could be by the end of August. I don't want to give him time. But again, this is just Sheila. I don't think the president's going to give him time to. Oh, what do you mean we're not going to have an election? We're going to have to sue you people. We're going to have to drag this out in court. To me, it just, go ahead and tell them on October 28, October 31 and November 3, we're not having an election, because they're still pushing for their candidates. They're still lying about the candidates. Here in Georgia, there were 3 Republicans that ran, and the 2 Republicans that had the higher votes, we didn't need a runoff election. But to Stop the Steal in Georgia, Republican part of the party, collected $8 million for Stop the Steal, spent over $4 million of it for a runoff election. I don't vote in Georgia. I'm just telling you the data. And the 2 Democrats ended up winning, and now they're running again, and they're doing the same lies against the Republicans this time. It's just, nothing has changed.
No.
But guys, you never let the enemy know when you're going to be done with them.
Yep.
We've given them how many chances, because we're here for the souls. And so they all have had chances to come and say the truth. And there's a lot of whistleblowers that you've not heard from yet that are going to really shock you. But the Venezuela one couldn't do it because Venezuela controls Colorado. The cartels of Venezuela are in money deals with the leadership of Colorado. And that's why they had to do this to Tina Peters and not let her Venezuelan whistleblower speak during the election. And now he's probably not even alive. I don't know. But that's what happens.
And we have a trial coming up, I believe, is it next year, I think? That begins? Yeah. That could play a very interesting role as well.
Oh, and have you seen the Maduro filing? Have you seen the Maduro court filing or the Sussman filing?
I have not, no.
The Maduro filing has all the Maduro names. I got to send that to you too.
Okay.
So make a note for me to send you the Maduro filing, because that's the court filing. And you know how it says the names of the people?
Yeah.
Maduro, son of Maduro, wife of Maduro. They're all Maduro, because you have to completely pay off the entire family so that they can't turn on you, because they're not going to just kill. If they were going to just kill the leader, Maduro, he would have probably let himself be killed to stop this.
Yep.
But when they got your wife and your kids and your nieces and nephews and grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
what Woodrow Wilson said.
Really, really interesting. All right. Well, I think that's actually a great note to end on. And I do want to have multiple conversations with you. This has been absolutely fascinating interview. Hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. I'm sure the audience.
You're going to want the Sussman case. That's the other one I mentioned. You know why you want the Sussman case? Everybody was mad, just like Comey, that he didn't get arrested. These guys are going to be firing squad or hung. You know what I mean? Because they chose not to flip. So maybe Sussman did. In the Sussman case, I'm going to send you that one too. It's like 13 pages. I can't find the 45 to 55. Durham's expelled out everything. Did you know this whole Russian hoax that has caused all these cases and 2 impeachments and everything against the president was created in Atlanta, Georgia at Georgia Tech? You can't make this stuff up. So the 3 banks are completely obliterated. They don't even exist. The Russian banks don't even exist. It was all made up out of thin air by the tech people in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia Tech, paid for by the DNC, paid for by Clinton campaign, paid for by Clinton Foundation. That's why Sussman was arrested, and they thought he was going to be sentenced to prison. These guys aren't being sentenced to prison. That's what it means. Military is the only way, guys.
Nope.
You explained it. The JAG, they're going to take care of it. And that's where we are.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. Like I said, this was an incredible conversation. We're going to have to stay in touch and set up another discussion, because there are so many subjects that I wanted to get your take on, but we only have a certain amount of time, a certain window. But I think this was like chock full of amazing information. I learned an awful lot. So thank you so much once again. And everybody out there who's watching, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, share this video everywhere to get this information out to as many different people as you possibly can. And like I said, if Sheila is willing, she's more than welcome. You're more than welcome to come back on the show anytime to have a discussion, and we'll certainly be in touch. So with that, folks, we're going to wrap things up for today. Thank you so much for listening. God bless and Godspeed, everybody. Patriot out. Take a minute to tell you folks about a small American company that I've been checking out called Pure Tallow. This is genuinely small batch American-made skincare built around integrity and intention, not mass production. Everything is made by hand, packaged in glass, and created with real care for quality and customer service. The foundation of their skincare is grass-fed tallow, a traditional ingredient that's been used for generations to nourish and protect skin. Their formulas are simple and thoughtfully made for people who care about what goes on their skin. They've also expanded into botanical fragrance, creating small batch perfumes made primarily with real flower absolutes, essential oils, woods, and botanical extracts. What I appreciate about this brand is that it's clearly run by a real person who actually stands behind what she makes, and customers seem to agree. Pure Tallow has an average of 5-star rating across more than 185 customer review sites. So if you value quality and supporting small American businesses, check them out at bepuretallow.com. That's bepuretallow.com, and use code PU15 for 15%